Hey folks, Scott here. Just wanted to remind you that this is part 2 of our series on David Icke, the guy who popularized the idea of lizard people existing throughout the world and taking over governments. And again, that conspiracy theory unfortunately comes with a lot of anti-Semitic rhetoric. So if that's not something that you want to listen to right now, no worries. We got a whole bunch of other episodes you can check out of this podcast, and we will be back next week as well with hopefully a sillier topic. But for now, for today, we're going to go ahead and finish up this series on this weird, bad man.
So I was in grad school at one point, believe it or not.
I do believe that, actually, yeah.
It would explain all of these framed diplomas in my office that I keep. I've never. This is how you show how vain I am. I have like 3 degrees, or 3 like 2 of them advanced degrees. And like one of them I got because my parents made me, and it is currently on the floor. I never bothered hanging it up. The other one I just left at the school. I never picked it up, and it has been there so long that they've probably thrown it out, and I would have to pay money to go get a new one.
Now, 3 degrees Canadian is how much Fahrenheit?
Ha!
See what I did there?
That was a good old classic Scott knee slapper.
I feel like you were telling a story, though, and we got distracted.
So when I was in my American Studies Masters, I went to the American Studies lecture series. And they had this guy come in who studied basically American cultures and American conspiracy theories. And one of the things, like, I had this question because they were talking about the kind of conspiracy culture in America and all of its like interesting ties to American culture and politics and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, this is just, a sign the podcast was coming. I was like, is there like different flavors? Like do those have different impacts and show up in culture in different ways? And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, there's people who believe the moon landing was a hoax. And then there's people who believe the moon is a hoax. He kind of floundered a little bit on that, but it was still a really good talk. And I just always remembered what's it called? The moon landing was a hoax. And they'd be like, brah, you believe in the moon?
Exactly. People will always take a conspiracy a little bit further. Unlike us, and certainly unlike the person we're going to continue to talk about today, I imagine.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to It's Probably Not Aliens.
What's going on? We're podcasts.
That I've heard rumors about that.
Yeah.
My name is Tristan Johnson, and I gaze into the abyss, and sometimes the abyss gazes back, and then I come back with the forbidden knowledge to give to all of you on the internet. I've decided to make that choice for my career.
For you. It's all for you, listener. Dear listener. My name is Scott Nicewander. I know nothing. I come into each episode fresh-faced, like a newborn babe, just ready to soak up knowledge that Tristan says out of his mouth and into my ears. Yeah. And into all of your ears as well. And today we're continuing part 2. This is, the last part, I imagine. The second part.
Yeah.
Every good movie franchise. Every good movie franchise should end at the second movie, and not go to the third one, as we all know. And that's what we're going to do. This is the second and final part of our series on beloved former British athlete turned conspiracy theorist and horrible person, David Icke.
Fun. I do think that, like, as now we're 30 episodes in, like, as I keep putting the knowledge into your earballs, I think your head's getting a little bit bigger every
session. It's getting normal sized, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about how normal my head size is right now.
Give it a few more years and you'll be like my son, who one of the most fun things about babies is
your
that, like,
newborn son, I will finally have a head as big as a baby.
I was saying proportional because, like, you know how you can put your arms up over your head and there's like a big gap.
Yeah,
he cannot do that. He puts his head up and it's just completely encompassed by his head.
Yes, I can do that, and my arms wrap around my head space multiple times over, as you can see.
As you can see on this audio podcast.
As you can see on this audio version of of a no, yeah. All right,
we're doing great.
Let's
We're doing
get
great.
into it.
Yeah. So last episode we gave you the sort of brief story of Mr. David Icke, the footballer turned sports journalist turned politician turned conspiracy theorist turned content creator / anti-Semite. So we talked about this person who's had a prolific career writing books, sort of being a keystone of the conspiracy theory crowd, especially those in like the New Age and UFO circles. And anybody who knows about conspiracy theories, the reptilians, and all that kind of stuff knows that David Icke is a huge part of it. So
Big name.
Today,
yeah, we left off last time on a bit of a cliffhanger because we've talked a little bit about what he believes, but I think we're about to dive right into it with all of his very good beliefs.
Yeah, today we're going to delve into the world according to David Icke. So to kind of like put together in like a summary of what David Icke believes, it's essentially a lot of New Age stuff, a lot of stuff about like consciousness in the universe, but that's combined with conspiracy theories that claim that many public figures are reptilian humanoids that are also pedophiles.
Yeah. So this is a pretty common, and I don't know if we even stressed that too much in the previous episode, but like the stuff that this guy believes and like sent out there into the world is pretty common and very not great conspiracy theories about stuff like lizard folks and about like people controlling the world and all this stuff. And I feel like everyone's probably heard about reptilians controlling the planet or whatever in some capacity. Mm-hmm. I have, and I don't even know the full story behind it, but I'm learning about it. And the fact that it sort of tracks back to this one guy for the most part.
Yeah, and you're going to see like there's a lot of stuff that you can tap into because the whole idea of like public figures secretly ruling the world, being he also kind of mentions that they're a little bit satanic and being pedophiles. You can already see like the sort of basis of QAnon kind of coming out in there. You can also, as we'll get into, and this is the thing that we kind of will bring up when it comes to like anti-Semitism in modern day, is that whole lot of these lizards happen to be Jews. And that despite, the fact that David Icke very much insists that no, he literally means reptiles as in from outer space. It does, he kind of rides this weird line of, does he believe in the lizard people, or is this him trying to gloss over Jews? And furthermore, this also shows the sort of uncomfortable relationship between sort of New Age spiritual stuff and the far right and like anti-Semitic neo-fascist stuff, which people had trouble seeing the connection with until QAnon. And I think QAnon, we're not going to talk about QAnon in this this episode. But you can see that, like, why did so many pastel-colored influencers on Instagram become QAnon people? And this is sort of the place where these kinds of connections exist in a sort of esoteric era.
Yeah. So a lot to dive into.
Yes.
Let's crack it open. Let's crack open this book on the lovable scoundrel, David Icke. I hope everyone knows that I do not mean that seriously.
He's got less of like lovable rogue energy that like young Eric Von Daniken, who despite all of his like wackiness was like very much like a hustler.
Yeah.
Anyways, David Icke has some foundational beliefs about how the universe works that are pretty important for understanding everything, which is that the universe is basically made up of vibrational energy and that we are surrounded by an infinite number of dimensions that share the same space. Like sort of the example that he gives is sort of like radio frequencies or television stations, and that some people are able to tune their consciousness to other wavelengths. So that's like at its core. So other dimensions exist. So this is like is this what Doctor Strange was about? Maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. It's more like The Flash. The Flash is all about vibrational energy and being able to like go to different dimensions, and every dimension just vibrates in a different frequency. It's very, very The Flash.
He also doesn't believe in time. Basically believing that it's an illusion and that really basically we all just live in the infinite now, and that humans are just an aspect of like sort of an infinite consciousness. This is sort of that thing that comes from, if you remember from last week's episode, the whole theosophy stuff, the sort of like pantheism idea.
Yeah.
So that's so far we're just in sort of some tame like new age stuff. Like, this is stuff my mom would have said to me in the 90s.
Exactly. It's a little weird. It's a little wonky, but at least with that, it doesn't feel like it's harming anybody. Like the most that I feel like you could take away from it is like, yeah, time's not real. We live in the now. So like enjoy the now. And it's like, okay, sure. Why not?
But David Icke also believes that the Earth and that our collective consciousness is being manipulated from the moon, which is a interdimensional portal and a spaceship that is controlled by reptilian aliens.
It's a portal and a spaceship?
Yep.
Wow, double duty. Well done, reptilian aliens.
So the human body,
smart tech.
So the left hemisphere of the human brain is apparently a computer that processes our sense of reality, and our sense of reality is broadcast to us from what he calls the moon matrix. And that is sort of how the reptiles shape our perception of the world.
Why just one half of the brain? Why don't they do it for the whole brain?
Good question. Next thing. So according to David Icke, the people who are manipulating us are called the Archons, which is an interdimensional race of reptilian humanoids, and that they have basically hijacked the Earth and are trying to stop us from reaching our true potential. That these are the Anunnaki, which are deities from Babylonian creation myths. So if you guys watched our previous episode on the Anunnaki, this is when I referred to David Icke and I wanted to circle back to him. So now we've fully circled. We've done circled.
We've done circled. It's why I talked so long about Scooby-Doo in the last episode and the one about the Anunnaki. It's because it's all connected, baby.
He also believes that the Archons, or the reptilians, which you might hear more often now, are also the fallen angels, i.e. the Watchers in the Bible who mated with human women. So that's another that's another episode. That was our episode with Trey the Explainer, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah, about the giants.
And now believes that in the sort of thousands of years since, that the Archons have created a human-reptile hybrid race of shapeshifters that are called the Babylonian Brotherhood, otherwise known as the Illuminati, and that they manipulate events to keep humans always in a state of fear so that they can feed off of our negative energy.
Okay, so they
literally feed on vibes. They feed on bad vibes.
They feed on bad vibes. They need to keep the bad vibes on Earth going. Honestly, doing a pretty good job these last couple of years. I gotta be real honest with you.
You hear fun things like David Icke believes that the Brotherhood are basically descendants, that these reptilians are from the constellation Draco, but that they also that these hybrids also live in caverns in the Earth. So I don't know if he goes full Hollow Earth on this, but that at least they live in subterranean dungeons in the Underdark, if you will, in D&D parlance.
Sure. Boy, this is hitting on a lot of ancient alien stuff, huh? This is hitting on a lot of...
Yeah, turns out that ancient aliens and ancient astronaut theory comes weirdly close to this line of thinking too.
Now I see why specifically we're covering this person, because it's not just the Anunnaki, right, that we've talked about. It's a bunch of stuff, a bunch of conspiracy theories.
According to David Icke, the first reptile-human breeding programs started about 200 to 300,000 years ago and possibly was responsible for creating Adam, as in Adam and Eve. And that there was probably a third breeding program that happened about 7,000 years ago.
What was that? What did that look like?
Good question. Next thing.
Okay.
So basically, the third program created a new type of hybrid that are more Anunnaki than human, and that these are the people that currently rule the world. Basically, they've created a set of powerful reptilian bloodlines that dominate, that are basically upon the upper echelons of the political and financial elite of today. Among these reptile bloodlines, every president, all of them are reptiles. 3 British and 2 Canadian prime ministers, also reptiles. Several Sumerian kings, as well as Egyptian pharaohs, and a bunch of celebrities.
Oh yeah. Who's the best one? Who's the most well-known celebrity? Who's a reptile? Do we know?
Well, there is one that comes up, which is that the Queen.
Oh.
Yeah. These bloodlines also spill into places that are not political leaders. For example, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, often targets of conspiracy theories for them being a combination of rich and Jewish. Well, the Rockefellers not, but the Rothschilds, yes. I don't think the Rockefellers are Jewish. I can't remember. I don't think so. Plus, a lot of aristocratic families from European history, and a lot of like powerful families from the Eastern United States, like the Bushes, are often considered to be reptiles, obviously because every president.
Right. I mean, it's like if you're a president, it's pretty much assumed you are a reptile. Did you know there's another conspiracy theory going back to the Queen? Did you know there's another conspiracy theory where Prince Philip was like a vampire?
I mean, did you see those like last pictures of him leaving the hospital?
They're pretty convincing.
Yeah.
So reptile vampire love. We witnessed it.
Prince Philip dies, and then 2 years later, Morbius comes out.
Coincidence?
Oh man. Also the House of Windsor comes into this as being reptiles, which includes the Queen and the entire royal family.
They all do, except for obviously Prince Philip, who is a vampire.
Now, interesting things is that David Icke apparently claims that he has seen this in person, that apparently while he was at Sky News waiting for an interview in 1989, he met former Prime Minister Ted Heath and saw his eyes turn jet black.
Whoa.
Yeah, and if you guys can remember, and also he said that the Queen Mother was serious reptilian. Queen Mother's been dead for quite a while now.
Okay.
And that the Rothschilds are basically blood-drinking Satan worshippers, which is a big revival of sort of something called the blood libel, which is this medieval anti-Semitic attitude that was put towards Jews.
Yeah,
that they basically drink the blood of Christian children and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, more anti-Semitic stuff. Who would have thought?
Yeah. On the sort of jet black eye thing, though, is that if you ever find yourself in the depths of YouTube, and I think this was a lot more common back when YouTube was like, less of a mainstream platform, but you could probably still find it, where they'll take video footage of celebrities that has been poorly compressed, because like old video, and they will show this as proof of like the hologram failing or them like shape shifting or something like that. There used to be a YouTuber, and I don't know if he's still around. I don't even know if I should name him because he was probably not mentally well, but he was a YouTuber that I followed a lot when I was never a conspiracy believer, but I definitely paid attention to this circle just because I find them very amusing. But he would do this a lot. He would take clips of celebrities from like 210p videos, and then they have like a weird compression problem. You could probably speak more to video compression that old like crappy video compression can lead to your face getting all messed up. It's a meme on TikTok now.
Yeah, it's all sorts of different artifacts. I mean, yeah, all sorts of compression can make anything look like anything, basically.
And sometimes it's not even a big thing. It's just like artifacting leading to like not rendering the pupils 100% circular, and because they're slightly elongated, that means reptiles. Because who has cat's eyes? Lizards. Never a belief that the world is run by secret cat people.
And they were trying to throw us off with that movie Cats, where they all shed their human skin and all those celebrities were allowed to finally show who they really are.
Yeah, that's the only live action movie they've ever done.
Everything else is extreme CGI
including
technology.
the part where Rebel Wilson does the cannibalism or whatever.
I've not seen the movie. I missed that boat.
I haven't either. That was like the last fun discourse we were having before COVID hit, was like everyone was talking about cats and the bad Star War. Those are the two things that was on everyone's mind back then. Man, it feels like it's been 1,000 years since then.
Oh yeah.
In his book, The Biggest Secret, David Icke talked about the Brotherhood, which, quote, controls the world today with the modern expression of the Babylonian Brotherhood of reptile Aryan priests and royalty. He claims that after the flood at Sumer, so after the historical biblical flood that definitely happened.
We know that, yes.
We did an episode on that as well. They went to the Caucasus, and that the term Aryan basically refers to like the white race, and that they are also that they're associated with the reptiles. And when he gets accused of being anti-Semitic, he often says that he refers to the reptiles as being Aryans, and therefore, yeah.
that is such like twisty, wordy way to, because you're like, basically what he's doing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, basically what he's doing is he's pointing to a lot of Jewish people and being like, they're reptiles. And people are like, hey, calling all these Jewish people reptiles is a little bit anti-Semitic. He's like, technically the Jewish people are reptiles and the reptiles are Aryan. So is it really anti-Semitic if you think about it?
Yeah, he's like, the Nazis were also reptiles, so therefore I can't be anti-Semitic by saying they're bad. Yeah,
that's so scummy.
Yeah, according to David Icke, these aliens do not just come from another planet, but they also come from a different level of, like, a different one of those dimensions, specifically the fourth dimension, which he calls the lower astral dimension, which is the closest one to the physical world. And that from this dimension, they essentially run affairs on Earth. But they are also apparently controlled by fifth dimensional aliens, which he does not go into detail about.
Great. Next thing.
Yeah, next thing. This is how he can go on for like 11 hours straight, right?
Exactly.
And that basically he believes that the only way that we can defeat the reptiles is to basically practice a chrontic influence. Basically, we need to fix our vibes. We need to fill our hearts with love. And this is how we're going to defeat them.
If those reptiles feed off of bad vibes, everyone needs to chill out. Everyone needs to have a good vibes, good waves, good, just have a good day.
So a lot of David Icke's ideas are not original. Like, a lot of his stuff about the reptiles and the breeding program and all that kind of stuff does have some familiarity because we did an episode on them too. David Icke's ideas of reptilians come from the work of a Russian guy by the name of Zechariah Sitchin, who wrote a book called The 12th Planet in 1976, which was about the reptiles coming to Earth because they needed all of that Earth gold.
They needed that sweet, sweet Earth gold. Earth gold is so valuable. As we've stated before, there's so much gold throughout the universe.
Space.
That's probably throughout the entirety of space. That's probably easier to get than coming to Earth and creating and enslaving an entire population to mine gold. But it's Earth gold, the most valuable kind of gold there is.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how once we actually get asteroid mining on the go, like, gold is going to just plummet in value because we're probably going to like double or triple the world's supply of gold in like a short amount of time. Because there's just so much of it in like the asteroid belt and stuff. Anyways, David Icke has actually come around with a solution to that, and that is that they come to Earth because Earth gold is special. It's a special monoatomic gold, which if you ingest it, it increases the capacity of the nervous system 10,000 fold, and that the Anunnaki can use it to basically increase the processing of information and use it so that they can travel between dimensions and shapeshift into humans.
Cool.
So
I have a lot of follow-up questions to that, if you can imagine.
So you just huff gold.
You huff gold.
And you can travel between dimensions.
So if you ingest it, right, then you can increase the capacity of the nervous system 10,000 fold.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What does that mean? Increase the capacity of the nervous system.
My guess is that's some sort of like limitless type situation.
Yeah, I mean, if all I had to do was eat gold, then I would go on all of those YouTube videos where people do like cheap pizza versus fancy pizza, and the fancy pizza has gold leaf on it. Like, imagine the capacity of their nervous systems.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that they're getting. It sounds like the freaking weird berry juice that the Mentats drink in the Dune novels.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know much about Dune, but in the Dune books, they've banned computers and replaced a lot of the work of computers with either slave labor or drugs. And so one of the things they do is that they have advisors called Mentats, who are basically people who work as like human computers, and they do serious amounts of drugs that make them able to do like quick calculations in like a very short amount of time.
Oh, dang. And it's all because of the gold that they're eating.
Yeah,
that increases the capacity of their nervous system. Yeah.
So some people have tried to say that it's it's not, this isn't anti-Semitism. It's just him using aliens more as an allegory to represent the alienation under global capitalism.
Okay.
But also many more people have pointed out that it's probably Jews. David Icke officially denies both of those and claims that he is not being allegorical, that he believes that it is actual reptiles from space, people.
It's literal.
I like the people who are like, when he says ancient aliens, he actually means the alienation under capitalism. He's like, nope, I mean the reptiles from space. And they're like, God damn it.
It's like what people, and not to get political on this podcast, but it's like what people used to say about Donald Trump, right? Like, don't take him, like, where it was like, don't take him literally, just try to understand the meaning of the sentiment of what he's saying. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was like, no, I want to do all this stuff literally. Like, all of this, we're literally going to build a wall and do this stuff. And it's like, okay, all right.
Yeah, Donald Trump being not president anymore and not being on Twitter has genuinely made the world a better place.
Yeah.
I will say this, but his Twitter presence in some ways was genuinely funny. I don't know if you saw this incident recently where he used like the official presidential seal and like his like official mailing list to send out an email about him getting a hole-in-one in golf.
Oh my God.
And then but I read it.
He's so lonely.
But I read this and like it brought, because like he like disappeared and then like we just never heard him ever again.
Yeah.
And we went from hearing his voice like every goddamn day
Constantly.
to like never it. But then when I read this, I'm like, this wasn't a page. This was most definitely him. I gotta read this to you. It is wild. Okay.
All right. Brief intermission as we do our one and only Donald Trump side quest, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to get this out because I know this is like peak ADHD bullshit, but
no, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. It is a picture. Official presidential seal says the office of Donald J. Trump. It says statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th president of the United States of America, a thing that cannot be undone. Mm-hmm. Let me hear these words and just imagine the voice in your head and like it all just comes flooding back.
Yeah, take me there.
Many people are asking, so I'll give it to you now. It is 100% true. While playing with the legendary golfer Ernie Els, winner of 4 majors and approximately 72 other tournaments throughout the world, Gene Sowers, winner of the Senior U.S. Open, Ken Duke and Mike Goods, both excellent tour players, I made a hole-in-one. It took place at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida, on the 7th hole, which was playing 181 yards into a slight wind. I hit a 5-iron, which sailed magnificently into a rather strong wind, with approximately 5 feet of cut, whereupon it bounced twice and then went clank is italicized, into the hole. These great tour players noticed it before I did because their eyes are slightly better, but on that one hole only, their swings weren't. Anyway, there's a lot of chatter about it, quite exciting, and people everywhere seem to be asking for the facts. Playing with that group of wonderful, talented people was a lot of fun. The match was Ernie and me, brackets, with no strokes, against Gene, Mike, and Ken. I won't tell you who won because I'm a very modest individual. You'll say I was bragging, and I don't like people who brag! !
I don't like people who brag, but here's an entire email about me hitting a hole-in-one.
But
oh my God.
You can feel his aura in that, in the words.
He's so lonely.
He's so bored.
So sad. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a side quest, but I just remember every time I think of Donald Trump, I just think of like the fact that he used the official presidential like statement from Donald J. Trump, 45th president of the United States.
Many people are asking.
And I can imagine his like, because like that's his like exact way that he says words. I just forgot that like he just like phrased sentences in weird ways that like broke everyone's brains, and like nothing like he just said things that made no sense, and we just had to see it constantly. And it's like I forgot what it's like to live in a world where people, I guess not with this current president, people who can complete sentences and say words that make sense. But but enough about
that concludes, and I'm very sorry
that's
if anyone
the most
didn't want to
political.
hear
There
that.
you go.
That is the one and only time we will reference Donald Trump on this podcast.
Yeah. I do not have any verified facts on this, but I will tell you one person who was a supporter of Donald Trump, and a lot of people who believe that Donald Trump might be the first mammal president.
Really?
Well, I've seen other people who believe in like reptilian conspiracies who have made statements that like Donald Trump's plan is to become
Donald Trump's the
president in
one.
order to oust all the reptiles.
All the other reptiles.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do these reptiles want exactly?
That's my biggest question, Tristan.
Aside from feeding off of our vibes.
Aside from feeding off of our vibes, this is my biggest question.
Mm-hmm.
What do these reptiles want? What do they want?
So what they want to do is create something that they call the Great Work of Ages. They want the entire population to be microchipped. They want the world to have a global world government that's run by an Orwellian fascist state in which there would be no truth in the media and freedom of speech would be banned.
Oh, okay. So they got a lot. They're doing a lot.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that comes. A lot of the New World Order stuff. A lot of comes out of the New World Order is another thing that the White Power movement rebranded what they called ZOG before, which stood for Zionist Occupational Government, i.e. the Jews. Then when they wanted to have more mainstream appeal, they rebranded it to the New World Order. And now, and that became pretty mainstream among the militia movement, as we talked about last week too.
Yeah.
So you can see that all of these are very incestuous with each other and all sort of feed off of each other in the worst game of improv ever.
Yeah.
So they want to use human anxiety as energy. And so to do this, they keep us in, quote, 5 cents reality to feed off of our fear and hate.
Well, I got bad news for them, baby. I started seeing a psychiatrist a couple months ago. So anxiety be gone.
It reminds me, I'm reading the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, and I forgot that the main conflict of the series is that they have secretly found at least the answer to what the meaning of life is.
Yes.
And that they're being hunted down by psychiatrists who don't want the world to know the answer to the meaning of life because then they'd be out of work. Just good times.
Good stuff.
Okay, so the thing is that the aliens, in order to keep our vibes in a bad place, keep the wars and the genocides and animal slaughter, sexual perversions. I can imagine what he means by that. Just constantly going, so that we're full of negative energy, and also to kind of vibe it up, they also do black magic. They practice human sacrifice. I love the line here: black magic rituals and sacrifice, which takes place on a scale that will stagger those who have not studied the subject. So this is where things are getting really kind of QAnon-y.
Yeah.
Apparently, they do human sacrifice to the gods
constantly.
Human sacrifice to the gods in the ancient world was for the reptilians, especially the sacrifice of children, because at the moment of death by sacrifice, a form of adrenaline surges through the body, accumulating in the base of the brain, and is apparently more potent in children. I don't know if you know what QAnon originally was about, but that basically was their belief of what what everyone they didn't like was doing to children.
Yeah.
There was that whole thing about adrenochrome and stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I never really got too deep into to learning much about QAnon because it felt like it was a bad place to be. I'm not the kind of person. I know that you are and a lot of other people.
I do a lot of psychic damage to myself.
I cannot do that. All this sort of cringy stuff, all these bad conspiracy theories, like it makes me just incredibly uncomfortable to stare into that abyss, which is why I have you do it for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to drag you through this, but this is sort of the thing at the core of what David Icke believes. He believes that these human sacrifices for this adrenaline's happening to this day. And here's a list of organizations that apparently the Anunnaki are behind.
Yeah, hit me with it.
The UN.
Obviously.
The IMF.
Okay.
Round Table, which I think is like a British thing.
Sure.
The Council of Foreign Relations. Chatham House. The Club of Rome. The Royal Institute of International Affairs.
Sure.
The Trilateral Commission and the Bilderberg Group, as well as just the media.
The media in general, yeah, absolutely.
The military, the CIA,
all of them,
MI6, Mossad, which is sort of like the CIA in Israel. Science
as a science as a concept. Science as a concept is behind
religion.
It. Yeah. Also, it says, hold on, says the Son of God.
Yeah. The internet, just the internet. They just control the internet. And also the London School of Economics. So you can already see that getting into, I move away from the QAnon stuff, but like you can see where all this stuff comes in. But basically they just control every single thing that has anything that has any influence whatsoever.
Absolutely wild that David Icke, claimed son of God, is like religion but they're controlling all the religion as well.
Yeah. And the way that they keep our vibes negative is by doing something called problem reaction solution. It's a common thing that David Icke says.
Okay, a little PRS, yeah.
Yeah, so the idea behind it is that they create a problem that then the solution to will be, like they'll create a problem that will create a reaction against the problem that then they will introduce a solution that gets them closer to the world they want. Oh. So, you do a fake 9/11 so that people want war, and then you introduce war to and make it more palatable. That's how they do it.
If I tell you that they're putting chemicals in your water, and then I sell you a water filter, and then that makes me rich, and
Precisely.
that's the world that I want to live in. Yeah, we come up. They're creating the theory anyway. They're creating problems to offer solutions that will create the world that they want.
So to do this, they create a bunch of false flag operations, which is a term for when they fake a disaster in order to, or falsify like an attack or a terrorist attack in order to push forward these policies they want.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say I bet the list of bad events, the list of false flags that they claim is probably not something that's going to be in poor taste. Am I right? They're definitely not going to create a list of actual tragedies and things and claim it was all some sort of agenda, right?
So here's the list of tragedies that
okay.
police are false flags. So let's start with the hits. Oklahoma City.
Love it.
Obviously. Columbine, which was the school shooting that happened in Colorado in 1998. 9/11.
Yeah, obviously, because of Alice in Wonderland or whatever his book was about.
Yep. 7/7, which was the July 7th, 2005 bombing in London.
Okay, yeah.
It was a group of suicide bombings that happened. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I do remember that, yeah.
Global warming.
Okay.
Lizards doing that. Chemtrails, which is this sort of conspiracy belief that, all right, when airplanes fly in the sky, they create things that are called contrails behind them, which is sort of like clouds of condensation. There is a pretty well proliferated conspiracy theory that these are basically like them dropping bad stuff off. Like they're basically just poisoning the population by dropping off these chemtrails. So they call them, instead of contrails, they call them chemtrails. Water fluoridation.
Oh, see, I nailed it. Gotta get there's stuff in your water. Let me sell you something. So
They, if you really want to delve deep on that, the conspiracy theorists believe that fluoride is a chemical that's supposed to make you stupid and compliant.
Well, I disagree because I was told to say that.
Yep. The death of Princess Diana.
Oh boy. Oh, I guess she wouldn't have been a reptile, right? Because she married into the family.
That's true. And besides, I'm like, oh, a reptile didn't do it. The queen did. That's a conspiracy theory that, no, I'm not going to say I believe that. The JFK assassination, because you can't have a conspiracy theory without that one.
But all the presidents are reptiles. Which
I know.
Why would they want to kill their own boy?
Maybe it was the rogue lizard. I don't know.
Rogue lizard was going to expose everything.
I kind of want to learn the detail on that. But it would be interesting if David Icke believed that, like, he believed in every conspiracy theory, but was like, oh yeah, it was Lee Harvey Oswald. What are you, nuts?
That wasn't anything special. That was just some dude.
And the last one is that he believes that Agenda 21, which is sort of like a UN Sustainable Development Initiative, is basically the Lee Lizards too. And then we get to some more recent hits, which is that he has recently been he's not on the internet very much anymore because he's been taken off a lot of his platforms.
And also he does say specifically that the internet was created by these reptile people. So it makes sense he wouldn't want to be on it.
But for a long time, he had quite a large presence on the internet. You know, he had Facebook groups and stuff, and he had like YouTube channels and stuff like that. But he did get deplatformed a lot in the last couple years because the Center for Countering Digital Hate has basically pointed out that he became in 2020 one of the biggest producers of misinformation about COVID-19, as well as a professional anti-Semite. Starting early in April of 2020, David Icke on a YouTube video said that there was a link between the COVID-19 pandemic and the 5G mobile phone networks.
Was he the one who did that?
I don't know if he did. He jumps on a lot of conspiracies that are already going and ties them into his.
Okay.
So he got on the 5G causes COVID thing.
Sure.
YouTube actually removed his video, and in response, that's when they started tightening their rules to prevent the spreading of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
He also believed that COVID was Israel using the crisis to test its technology. And that
David Icke believed that? I can't imagine.
And also, he has said that he believes that that vaccinations, that mandatory vaccinations were basically fascism. And the most recent thing I could see him having attended in later days was that he was at an anti-lockdown protest in London in recent times. So you can just see
he's sticking his hands in a lot of different pies. He's any conspiracy theory he can latch on to. He's like, and also this proves my thing.
So to kind of put it back together, especially to talk about the anti-Semitism thing, because that is a theme that has run through his career over and over again. And it's not unique to David Icke. In a book by Christopher Roth called Ufology as Anthropology, Race, Extraterrestrials, and the Occult, there's actually a pretty strong strain of anti-Semitic conspiracies that are in the sort of UFO circles. David Icke and Milton Cooper both come into that, and both of them are famous in both far right-wing conspiracy circles as well as UFO subcultures. Jonathan Greenblatt, who's the chief executive of the Anti-Defamation League, has pointed out that there's really no way to read David Icke's work that's not anti-Semitic. Despite that, David Icke denies it. When he was questioned about the Protocols of the Elders of Zion making a presence in his book, he said that is an evidence of not a Jewish plot, but a reptilian one.
Okay.
He has stated to Vox that, quote, "My philosophy and view of life is that we are all points of attention within the same state of infinite awareness, and the labels are given and give ourselves are merely temporary experiences and not who we are. Thus, to me, all racism is hideous and completely missing the point of who we are and what we are." But then he's also said the families and positions of great financial power obsessively interbreed with each other, but I'm not talking about one Earth race, Jewish or non-Jewish. I'm talking about a genetic network that operates through all races, this bloodline being a fusion of human and reptilian genes. Let me make myself clear, this does not in any way relate to the Earth race.
So he's trying so hard to be like, I'm not racist. I'm not anti-Semitic.
Yes.
I just don't like reptiles.
Yeah. But then when he goes through a list of people who he considers to be these like Rothschild Zionists, they all happen to be Jews.
Weird.
And many of these are Jews who do not claim to be Zionists, which is sort of like a very complex term, but it essentially rolls down to people who believe in sort of a Jewish nationalism and basically like believing in Israel as a project.
Super coincidental that they all happen to be Jewish people. So weird.
Well, not all of them, but they're definitely disproportionately Jewish.
There's a lot of them.
He also has endorsed and recommended a whole lot of publications that are associated with anti-Semitic stuff in the far right, including Spotlight, which I do know is I think it's like a Klan newspaper, and On Target, which is the magazine of the white supremacist group called the British League of Rights. And he's also been associated with periodicals like Nexus and Rainbow Arc, which are both known to be sort of new age anti-Semitic magazines, and are associated with a group called National Front, which I don't even think I need to say is a neo-Nazi group.
Yeah.
And he has also, his speaking events have been promoted by groups like Combat 18, which was a neo-Nazi group, and they even promoted his talk talks in a journal that they call Putsch, which is a reference to the beer hall putsch, which was an attempted coup by the Nazis in Germany.
It just sounds like he's making a lot of friends that are not great folks.
He's also said that the official explanation for 9/11 is a cover-up, and that it was made to cover up the, quote, massive and central involvement in 9/11 by the Israeli government, Israeli military, and Israeli intelligence operatives. Which, like, no.
No, that's not true. It was Alice in Wonderland. I still don't know what that reference means.
My guess is that he's probably metaphorically going down the rabbit hole.
I guess so.
Which is bad because that's actually the sequel to Alice in Wonderland, but okay.
No, that's Through the Looking Glass.
Oh, it's Through the Looking Glass. You're right.
Yeah.
He also, one time when he came to Canada in 2000, was arrested by immigration officials where he was going for a speaking tour because Canada has laws against hate speech.
Okay.
Indigo Books, which is sort of like the Barnes and Noble of Canada, has removed his books from the shelves, and he had to cancel his tour because of our hate speech laws. He's also had events canceled in Berlin because Berlin has similar laws against anti-Semitism for obvious reasons.
Sure, makes sense.
He was also going to speak for he was going to do an event at Old Trafford, Manchester United's Old Trafford, that had to be canceled because of quote unquote Icke's objectionable views.
That's a nice way to put it, huh?
Yeah. He tried to come back to Canada in 2017 for a talk in Vancouver, and he was able to give the talk. But Canadian Jewish News pointed out that he's a controversial conspiracy theorist, anti-Semite, and Holocaust denier, which they say only because he is a Holocaust denier.
Only because it's accurate.
And also in 2019, the Australian government canceled his visa when he was coming on a speaking tour for the similar reasons.
Sounds like this guy got canceled pretty quick.
Yeah. His politics have been described as, quote, a mishmash of most of the dominant themes of contemporary neo-fascism mixed with a spattering of topics culled from the U.S. militia movement, which, like, not mincing any words on that one. Because he has some other beliefs, like that the U.S. government did Oklahoma City, which is pretty common in the militia movement, obviously. He also believes that is against gun control and believes that many mass shootings are just false flag operations to raise public opposition to guns. So you can imagine that he's on that Sandy Hook conspiracy train as well.
Oh, of course. Why wouldn't he be?
And this has had an actual impact. People have gone to public figures and flat out asked them to their face if they're lizards. For example, somebody filed an Information Act request in New Zealand to ask if John Key, the Prime Minister, was a lizard. Somebody at a Q&A in 2016 asked Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg if he was a lizard.
That's pretty funny.
Which, like, honestly, that, you know what? Sure. If there was one lizard on Earth,
I could see exactly one person being a lizard on Earth, and it would be Mark Zuckerberg.
But he's actually just 6 iguanas in a trench coat.
It's true.
But both men apparently have publicly stated that they are indeed not lizards.
Well, that's good. But Tristan, that's exactly what a lizard would say to throw you off its trail, off its tail even.
Yeah. Now, there's not a lot of studies to show about how widespread his beliefs have been, but enough to say that there's one 2013 study I could find that said that, at least in the US, about 4% of people believe that lizard people control our societies, which is almost 1 in 20.
Yeah, that's way more than I thought. Even though that sounds small, 4%, like that's a lot of people.
And it has spread to a lot of people in conspiracy circles, and most notably, and sort of where this gets personal, one of my high school friends. I had a friend in high school who was always into sort of weird esoteric stuff. He went down a few rabbit holes. He got into a MLM before MLMs were even cool. But then he started getting into Ayn Rand and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, he started getting into the reptilian conspiracy, and he got pretty deep. He was starting to actually have like serious like anxiety about it. And he was starting to actively like take mental harm from his belief that the lizard people were doing this. But I will report that he did get out of it, and now he's a lawyer. So I guess it worked out all right for him. But I just remember that like this is, conspiracy. We talk a lot about conspiracy theories, and I do mention that like especially in some of the more charged ones like this one, this comes up a lot with QAnon, that there's a real human cost to them. Not only does it spread hate towards groups, in this case, anti-Semitic hate, but also it rips apart families.
Yeah.
It causes like relationships to fall apart. And a lot of conspiracy theory works can very easily be taken up by people with certain mental illnesses and can cause a lot of problems in their lives. And so I just thought that, when we're kind of like wrapping up the book on like, what's the deal with David Icke? I just mentioned that like this stuff is kooky, but it's also not without harm. And
it almost, and I'm trying not to make a light of it here, but I do just have to say, like, if the goal, if like the whole thing behind this theory is that the lizards are feeding off of our anxiety, then it seems like pointing out that there are lizards feeding off our anxiety would cause a lot of anxiety in a lot of people. And so you'd think a way to combat these lizards who are feeding off bad vibes is to just say nothing. But I know that's going to make me sound like I'm a lizard person now.
If David Icke wanted to really improve the vibes of our Earth, he would just make YouTube videos of like cats and rabbits becoming friends.
That'd be good.
Or just like videos of puppies trying to run around a corner but sliding into it and falling down, or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, another solution would be to make access to like mental health care easier, make that a little bit more accessible to people. Wealth inequality, that stresses people out a lot. Just all of these things that we could do to better the world in more tangible ways to have a good vibes all around. Mm-hmm. But I feel like he's not promoting those sorts of things, is he? It doesn't sound like it.
Doesn't seem to be, no. But yeah, that's David Icke, a person that I have had a grudge against for probably close to 2 decades at this point.
I understand why now. This was a lot. I knew next to nothing about this person, and learning about them and learning about their history and what a complete 180 they've had in their life to turn into the person they are now. Is he still alive?
Yeah. I mean, he was still doing like anti-lockdown stuff fairly recently. So he's in his 70s, I think. But yeah, he's still kicking.
All right. Well, even though we didn't like go through and like point by point debunk every single conspiracy theory, we've done a couple of them on this show. Yeah. And I hope that these couple episodes could enlighten people who might not know, who might be like me, who might not know who this person is, but has seen the effects that their life has had on conspiracy theory internet. And it's not good. I don't like it. And I wish that he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. When we were going to do a fun show about ancient aliens, I probably should have like mentioned beforehand that I had like a pretty long history of like studying and being mad at conspiracy theory culture in general, and I probably was going to delve into it at some point.
But I know that this was good. This was fun, and I hope everyone liked listening to it. And I promise we'll be back to our regular types of episodes next week, I think.
Yeah, I imagine I've got a few fun ones we could do. We could go back to Mexico. I think I might do another Maya one.
Let's do it. Thanks so much for listening. I know that this got heavy in a couple different areas, but we tried to keep it light, and I hope you really enjoyed it. And this is our show. This is the show that we do. It's called It's Probably Not Aliens. And if you like it and you want to give us some feedback, go to twitter.com, where we have an account there called @probsnotaliens, where you can find us and tell us things and send us some nice stuff. And Tristan, where can people find you? You also have some internet things.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel called Step Back where I talk about the past and why like understanding the past is important for the work to understand the world that we're in today.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'd say it's a lot of fun, but it's basically like, it's more of this.
Yeah, it's more of this. And it is, I mean, it is fun. It is interesting and it's important and I like it. So go check that out. We have links in the description. I also have a YouTube channel called Nerdsync, Nerdsync. It's a good, some are saying it's the best YouTube channel around. But it's more fun. It's more fun and goofy. And I just make stuff about nerdy. I make video essays about nerdy things, whatever I'm interested in. So go check it out.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who's been writing in some great reviews and just sharing this podcast around. And if you want to share this podcast, you can do so at probsnotaliens.com. We have links to everything where you might be able to listen to it. So send that write that link down on a piece of paper and just throw it at the first person you find. And that's how we will grow this podcast.
And that person will be David Icke.
And then throw pieces of paper at David Icke. Can we endorse that? Is that a thing we could get in trouble for?
I feel like we should not do that.
Can't. Don't throw anything at
don't
anybody.
do that.
Legally, don't throw anything at anybody.
Yeah. But yeah, the show has been doing really great. You guys have had such positive and amazing feedback, and it's been really innovating, not just to be able to do something real. It's really fun to collaborate with Scott on a project, but also to just see that so many of you are having fun listening to this show and that all of these weird things that I've had obsessions with throughout my life are actually like it's cool to find out that something that you think is cool, other people think is cool too.
Absolutely. We love doing this show. We love that you like listening to it.
Yep.
And we'll be back next week for some fun ancient alien theory debunking. Back to our roots. Let's do it.
Yeah. But until next time, my friends, the truth is out there.
Probably. Beefy episodes, yeah. 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 Beefy episodes, yeah.